Twitch streaming on Mac has really taken some strides in the past few years, so let's talk about the current state of streaming on Mac OS. I first started streaming a little under 2 years ago, and when I started I was using everything on Mac OS, whereas everyone else I knew was running everything on Windows. I was trying to figure out as much as I could do within Mac OS, but I found a few roadblocks and a few things compared to all my other streamer mates that I would have absolutely no issues with. I was running into a few roadblocks and a few difficulties and things I wanted to do, so I eventually moved over to Windows. However, I was still running it all through my MacBook Pro. So today I'm just going to talk about my experiences with streaming on Mac OS, the roadblocks that I ran into, and the solutions that I found. Before we get too deep into this isn't going to be a tutorial in terms of how to set up OBS or a chatbot or anything like that. If you're looking for more tutorials like that, I very much recommend looking into Nutty and Alpha Gaming's channels. But this is just going to be talking about my experiences with what softwares I use, what hardware I use, and those limitations as well. So to start off with, let's talk about the actual computer I've been using. So when we first started streaming, I was using my 2015 MacBook Pro, and while it did a pretty good job of running everything, I think it was struggling because I didn't have many of the settings optimized within OBS, all the bit rates and the resolutions and stuff like that. So I eventually upgraded into a 2019 MacBook Pro. So while it wasn't just for streaming, it's also for my design work and also video editing, so stuff like this. I just want that little bit extra computing power just to make things a little bit quicker and easier for myself, because I found on that 2015 model, things were just kind of lagging behind. And yes, I do stream on a laptop. I feel like most PC users probably use a 10-foot tower, but I just use a MacBook Pro. It is one of the upper tiers of MacBook Pro, but nevertheless, it's still a laptop. And look, to be honest, this new 2019 model does everything I really need it to do. I only stream on 720p with 30 FPS, which is really, I feel like, all I need. I feel like you only really need to go up to that 1080p level if you're going more full-time streamer, more professional content creation route. But just for, your average hobby, doing 2 or 3 streams a week, 720p at 30 FPS will probably do the job. So from a hardware side, while I did upgrade my laptop from a 2015 to a 2019 model, I feel like on my 2015 model, if I did optimize the OBS settings a little bit better, I could have gotten a bit more out of it. And again, there's plenty of tutorials out there in terms of how to optimize those bitrate settings and everything like that to make sure your stream runs perfectly. Now I'm going to quickly cover the equipment and other pieces of hardware which we use to stream. So your microphones, your webcams, and your capture cards. I've got the most basic answers for this, which I feel like 95% of streamers also use. We've got your Blue Yeti microphone, we've got a Logitech webcam, and we've got an Elgato 60 Plus gain capture card. I'm confident in saying there's absolutely no surprises there. These are just your standard USB devices, which are just plug and play and work with absolutely no issues on a Mac. I mean, it's no surprise why these pieces of equipment are so popular across the board. They're good quality, they're somewhat affordable, and they rarely run into any issues. Now, in terms of headphones, when we first started streaming, I believe we actually used to play audio through the TV really low so we wouldn't get it back through the microphone. But then we moved on to some wired headphones, which were just annoying because of wires. And then I actually started using my AirPods for a little while. I got the 2nd generation AirPods with the wireless case. Now, while they were good because with Mac they just connected to everything super easily, I did find the battery to be a bit of an issue. Even if they're fully charged, I found they only lasted about 3 hours. With me, my average streams are probably from maybe 3 to 4, sometimes 5. It would tend to die halfway through, and then I'd be left with no audio and have to just go back to these wired headphones, which were just a bit of a pain. So then I recently moved to a pair of Logitech headphones, and they've worked with absolutely no problems at all. Again, most of the times these USB plug and play devices work on Windows and Mac, but it's always best just to double check before buying any of those. I actually nearly forgot, the only issue with these USB devices on this model of MacBook Pro is that this is the one where they dropped all the other USB-A ports that only have USB-Cs. So with that, I've actually had to buy a couple of USB-A docks for the Mac. This is my 2nd one I've got, and I feel like I might need a 3rd very soon. And in case you're looking at buying any of the hardware, the software, anything like that, I'll put links to them all down below. Next, let's talk about streaming software, and there are absolutely no surprises here. First, we started streaming with Slobs, which ran fine, but we just moved everything over to Stream Elements and Raw OBS. As you can imagine, Slobs are just a bit not so nice, and wanted that little bit more control over everything as well. And look, OBS on Mac has come a long way. While I was streaming on Mac, we didn't have browser sources. That's only released in OBS 27, I think the version is, the newest version. But you can probably imagine how annoying not having browser sources are when streaming. It probably took an extra 5 minutes for me to get every Chrome tab open in a nice neat layout so we could see everything while streaming. Now the second part that comes with OBS is all the plugins you can get. Now while there isn't every single plugin available for Mac, some of the fundamentals are there and accessible. Most namely the move transitions and stream FX. Now for me, not having access to all these plugins felt like a roadblock. Thinking back on it, I don't think I've actually installed too much that are Windows only plugins, but not being able to access everything, it did feel like a significant roadblock for me. Now I want to quickly cover audio routing. So let's say if we have Spotify playing in the background of our computer, or let's say we want to watch a YouTube video, that we can feed that audio through to OBS. And look, to be honest, on Mac, I couldn't really find a free solution. I did have to buy a piece of software, but this piece of software I wish was on Windows. It's the biggest thing I miss on Mac. The software is called Loopback, and the developers actually have other pieces of software that are really good for, let's say, podcasting and other pieces of content creation. What I love about Loopback is it's just so easy to use and just so intuitive. On Windows, I'm using, no surprise, Voicemeeter, and it's just very clunky and just difficult to operate. I feel like Voicemeeter's most common use in terms of the audio routing, it's not its main purpose. It's kind of just Frankenstein its way into the foothold of being every Windows user's audio routing software. And look, with Loopback, while it is paid, you can buy a once-off lifetime license just to save a little bit of extra money, which is what I did, and I have no regrets buying it. Even though now I don't stream on Mac, I still use the piece of software all the time. And just quickly to clarify, you don't need Loopback to bring your game audio through the capture into OBS. That just happens automatically. This is more if you want your Spotify audio or your Chrome audio or any other piece of software's audio to come through OBS as well. Now I want to cover chatbots because this is something that was probably the most experimental and interesting and surprising for me with streaming on Mac. And look, I went through all the standards. I went through Slobs to start off with, and then I did Nightbot for a little bit. I've also used the Stream Elements chatbot, as well as just, the Twitch moderation tools. I even tried to use stuff through Touch Portal. My experience with Stream Elements was probably the best. The only issue I ran into was the rebranding of the chatbot. So for those of you that didn't know, you can actually rename your Stream Elements chatbot to any other Twitch user account. So essentially what you do is make a second account, you log in through Stream Elements, and instead of that chatbot coming through in your chat as Stream Elements, it'll come through as a custom user. Very useful to having your chat just a bit more personalized and unique. For now, where this went wrong for me, I wasn't actually using OBS Live at all. I was just using OBS, and then I actually found the link to Stream Elements where you'll get the chat and get that all set up. So while it was working for, I want to say about 3 months, just one day it stopped and it's never worked since. I'm not quite sure what's wrong from my Twitch account or what's wrong from Stream Elements side. I've actually gone in the support section of their Discord and DM'd one of their team members, and they haven't been able to find out what's gone wrong. All they know is that because I've gone directly through this URL, the system's not happy. So just hear my warning for everyone out there that uses Stream Elements chatbot, use it through OBS Live and not a backwards way, because it just might stop working for you. Now for where I got a bit more experimental with the chatbots. I have a little bit of coding experience, but I found online that you can actually custom code your chatbot from the ground up, and I believe using JS. Now, not to exaggerate too much, I do say the ground up, but Twitch did give me some starting template, so I did have a starting point for it, but I tried to do as much as I can in custom coding it, which I don't know code that well, so it wasn't too much, but it was still something which I found pretty cool. At the time, I was also using Touch Portal instead of Stream Deck because it just was a little bit expensive, and I figured I might as well pay I think it's $8 and just get it on my phone and I don't have to buy anything else. So I did try to do some things through Touch Portal, but I also tried to do some things through the chatbot, so it'll just be completely mine, and theoretically I could do whatever I wanted. Now in terms of with the chatbot, while I could kind of do anything I wanted, it was very much limited to anything I wanted within the Twitch chat. This chatbot, I couldn't, let's say, have things affect my OBS. I had to get Touch Portal to do that. But I didn't run into that many difficulties with Touch Portal. Again, the user interface is very intuitive, very easy to use. I would absolutely recommend it to anyone out there that can't necessarily afford a Stream Deck, or just while they're starting out, just to try it all. But you can do some quite complex conditional rules in there. Now, while I've kind of covered this last segment throughout the video, I just want to kind of recap it all at the end in terms of specifically what I could do and specifically what I couldn't do. Now for me, I'm a designer, so I do have experience with Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere, After Effects, and essentially the whole Creative Cloud suite. So for most of my commands and my rewards that did something visual, they just simply triggered a transparent video or an audio file, and if it was a video, some of them would move across the screen and just have those simple fade in, fade out, or mood transitions on them. Now, while Touch Portal can pull through much more dynamic text, I feel like before I couldn't get that much through. I could get the replies from a channel point reward submission, but not much else. One of the other biggest things which I couldn't figure out, which was really getting to me, was voice effects. So voice mod. Voice mod's not on a Mac, as well, at least not yet. I did try to find some alternative programs as a substitute, but there weren't really many popular or what I would think trusted ones to use. They were at least free to start off with and then see if I would buy it eventually. But yeah, that was a big one for me. I really wanted to do some voice effects stuff, and there's just not a popular program out there. Really, it's just a waiting game for voice mod to come on Mac. The last thing I couldn't really do on Mac was complex chatbots. Now, while I could do some complex conditional logics within Touch Portal, compared to the likes of Mix It Up and StreamerBot, it doesn't really stand a chance. Those softwares go in such minute detail that you can pretty much do anything you want. And since they are so popular, they kind of integrate with anything. And while these complex chatbots say that they will come to Mac, from my understanding, the user base for Mac isn't quite as big and it's a bit more difficult to develop for Mac compared to Windows. So it just takes a bit more development effort and resources to do that. So I'm not quite sure when it will happen. I'm pretty sure it will happen eventually, but maybe probably not for another couple of years. Look, that's all the negative stuff in terms of what I couldn't do, which again is probably specific to me. And maybe some of you out there that want to go really granular and want to customize every action and really do really complex stuff. But for most of you out there that are probably just going to put up, let's say, a video, maybe do some display capture, some audio routing, and just talk and stream and not do that many complex stuff from a technical level, streaming on Mac's not really an issue. You can cover all the basics, all the fundamentals, have no issues. It's just a matter of making sure that your settings are configured that little bit, making sure you have a computer that has that little bit of extra grunt that if you're doing, let's say, any designing stuff on stream, or you're going to have multiple displays and things like that going, that it can stay on top of it. But yeah, I don't think there's really that much more to stop you from streaming on a Mac. And while I did swap over to Windows, apart from streaming on Windows, I don't do anything on it. I always go back to Mac. I have actually used both Parallels and Bootcamp for running Windows on my Mac machine. So if you want to check out that video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching. It's me, Drew, and I'll see you next time.